This is the story of two extremely different 13-year-old guys who went in completely opposite directions with their lives. One was a cold-blooded killer, while the other was the hero who assisted in bringing him down. This is the tale of a Southern California adolescent who stayed up long past his bedtime and eventually turned out to be a crucial witness against the Night Stalker. Ricardo Leyva Muñez Ramirez, also known as Richard Ramirez, born on February 29, 1960 in El Paso, Texas. At the age of 13 years old, Ramirez witnessed his first killing, when his cousin shot and killed his wife. In the same year, Ramirez started breaking into homes. Ramirez's crime spree went from Texas to Los Angeles, and by June 27, 1984, his crimes went from mild to horrific. He killed 79-year-old widow Jeannie Vincow by stabbing her to death in her Eagle Rock apartment. After that, he went silent for 8 months and soon began killing again. He did not stop until he got caught. His murderous rampage in Southern California went on for a year. His crime dominated the new coverage. He became known as the Valley Intruder or the Walk-In Killer. But the name that the Los Angeles Herald gave him was what stuck and finally called the Night Stalker. And the Night Stalker would go on to kill 13 innocent individuals over the course of this year. The Saturday of August 24, 1985, the Romero family just returned to their Mission Viejo home from a family trip. While the whole family was resting from the family trip, their 13-year-old son, James, was wide awake at midnight. Note that the Romero family home was next to a steep hill and was not fenced, so most of the time animals would pass by their home. In the early hours of the 25th, James went back to their family camper to get his pillow. As he walked past the driveway, he heard footsteps coming from the gravel path of their backyard. Romero later recalled, "I kind of looked up on the hill and I was like, oh, it's probably a dog or a cat or a possum." James Romero went on to investigate what it was but found nothing and left to work on his mini bike in their garage. However, the sound of footsteps came back, and James knew it was no animal. Right outside the garage, there he heard the footsteps. James told the reporter, "I could hear the footsteps literally stop where I was sitting." James hurriedly hid himself behind the car while planning his escape. He ran straight for the door which led to the kitchen and went to his bedroom. Now inside his bedroom, he wanted to take a look at who was following him. He looked out the window and Romero stated, "I saw him walking in front of my bedroom right outside. I saw him pretty close." James had this surge of bravery rush through him, so he decided to get a better look at the stranger. He went straight for the garage and even ignored his father, who wanted an explanation why he was still awake. James explained to him what had happened and ran out to the yard. From the yard, he was able to spot a figure dressed in black, a members-only style jacket, baseball cap, and blue jeans. After being spotted, the mysterious figure fled in an orange Toyota hatchback with a chrome roof rack. James chased the car and attempted to read the license plate, 482T. James thought the car would drive off the opposite direction. Instead, the man made a U-turn, drove right by James, and looked him straight in the face. After the encounter, James ran to tell his dad the details, and they alerted the police. Soon, the Orange County Sheriff's Department arrived to get their statement. At that time, no one knew that James Romero came face-to-face with the Night Stalker. At 3:30 a.m., the police came back and asked James for more information. Romero gave them the details and description of the mysterious figure he had encountered. Right after, the police got reports about the Night Stalker attacking someone just a mile and a half away from Romero's home. Crime scene examiners started dissecting the Romero residence. James walked the authorities step by step through his encounter with the mysterious figure. James was shown different cars, and authorities were hoping for him to identify the car he saw earlier. But none of the cars matched James' description. After being with the authorities, his parents reached the terrifying conclusion that the man James encountered was none other than the Night Stalker, and figured that their son was a survivor and would play a big role in helping the police identify and catch the bloodthirsty serial killer. By the morning of August 27, 1985, the police were able to identify the car in a parking lot in Rampart neighborhood of LA. It seemed to match James's description. The license plate was 482T, and it was an orange Toyota hatchback with a chrome roof rack. The Orange County Sheriff's Department had the car towed to Santa Ana, where James was able to confirm it was the car he saw on August 25, 1985. The car was cleaned of any traces of the driver. However, there was a new process all the way from Japan. It allowed investigators to find intact fingerprints on the back of the rearview mirror that didn't correspond to the car's first owner. They identified the driver of the orange Toyota hatchback by using the fingerprint. The fingerprint found belonged to Richard Ramirez. On August 30, 1985, they made Ramirez's picture and identity public available. The next day, August 31, 1985, somewhere in East Los Angeles, Ramirez made an attempt to steal Faustin Pinon's daughter's car while he was fixing it. However, the car slid back and struck the house's chimney. Faustino was able to identify Richard Ramirez and quickly alerted the police. Ramirez went and tried to steal another car belonging to Angela De La Torre. Angela fought against Ramirez and tried to keep the keys away from him, but he punched in the stomach and took the keys. The neighbor, Jose Virgin, came over to help Angela, but Ramirez yelled, "Don't get closer or I'll shoot you." But Virgin didn't see any gun on Ramirez, so he opened the door and yanked Ramirez out of the car. Ramirez was hit on the head with a steel rod by Manuel De La Torre, but Ramirez ran. Jose requested assistance from his two sons, Julio and Ernesto, and told them to not let Ramirez get away. They were able to catch up with Ramirez and pinned him to the ground. Soon, neighbors were surrounding outside and shouting in Spanish, "Killer! Killer!" Reina Pinion, who was the wife of Faustino Pinion, said, "I was proud. Yes, of course. The whole neighborhood was proud." The following week, the police asked James Romero to come to the precinct and identify Ramirez. James stated, "It was scary, but I felt obviously protected. He was in the custody and he couldn't even see me." Later, James would testify against Ramirez at a preliminary hearing. James said, "He would try to stare me down and then he would wink at me. He was trying to get into my head." Richard Ramirez was convicted of all charges on September 20, 1989, and later given the death penalty. During an interview, Ramirez told reporters, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland." James Romero now resides in Phoenix and is a father. He is still troubled by his encounter with the Night Stalker. James said, "I still have nightmares. It hasn't been easy. I don't wish what I have gone through on anyone. But what I was able to do is what possibly saved my family's lives. I'm a little more at peace with it now, but for a long time, I wished I was never part of it." The horrifying reign of terror that was the Night Stalker is the story of a sick guy. But it's also the tale of a courageous 13-year-old child who faced a monster in his neighborhood and worked with his neighbors to defeat that monster. What do you think of the Richard Ramirez case? Comment down below. If you haven't already, hit the like button while you're at it and subscribe button as well.